Welcome to the Positive Nation Media Podcast, where we celebrate stories of resilience, personal growth, and positivity. Today, we're honored to be joined by Counselor Beverly Fernandez, known affectionately as Counselor Bev. Bev is an experienced counselor, therapist, and ThetaHealing practitioner with a deep passion for mental health and personal transformation. In this episode, we dive into the concept of purpose, the vital role of counseling in our lives, and the importance of mental health prevention.
What you're good at, what your skills at. Number 2 is what does the world need. Number 3 is what am I passionate about. And then the fourth one is where do I get paid.
Good morning, positive citizens. Today, we are excited to bring insights on psychology, positivity, and mental health from leading experts. Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Beverly Fernandez, also known as Counselor Bev. With a PhD in counseling, Dr. Beverly has dedicated her life to supporting mental health and empowering individuals to live their best lives. We will be starting our conversation with Dr. Bev's childhood dream and how it shaped her journey into raising mental health awareness. Together, we will explore how to break the stigma and encourage everyone to seek the support they deserve. So let's dive into this inspiring conversation with Dr. Beverly Fernandez, and I am Mela with my co-host, Mr. Jack Farr. Hi, Miss Bev. Can you introduce yourself a little bit more?
Wow, hi Mela, hi Jafar. Wow, so awesome to be a guest on Positive Nation. A little bit of an introduction aside from what you've shared is that yes, I'm an educator, I'm a trainer, and I also created self-mentoring wellness solutions. It's a framework for self-development. So on a high level, that's about me.
Dr. Bev, it's truly a pleasure to have you here. I'd love to start by asking how your childhood dream and what inspired you as a child, and how did that dream evolve into your passion for mental health and counseling today?
Mela, as I was recalling, mental health was really not a thing or wasn't really like sort of known growing up. So when I was a kid, my childhood dream was really varying. But what's really close to my heart is I wanted to become a doctor, specifically a medical doctor. So growing up, I have this respiratory condition. It's asthma. So I would always come and go to my doctor, and I will see kids my age having difficulty breathing. And I said, when I grow up, I want to become just like my doctor. I'm going to help these kids so that they will not have any problem breathing. Okay. And then after college, I took up BS psychology. And for my master's, which I was thinking initially will be my pre-med. And then for convenience purposes, because counseling is an applied psychology. So that's what I took after I took up my BS psychology. And then what's really fascinating is that it's not a dream. Counseling, psychology, it's not something that I dreamed of, but it's something that I fell in love with. And this is something that I chose, and I am choosing until after I finished my master's, I took up my PhD in counseling. So it's really something that, now fills my heart with advocacy, not only for people who are experiencing mental health problems or who are into self-development, but I also advocate for counselors and mental health practitioners to actually embrace going to counseling too. That if you're a counselor, you should also go for counseling. If you're a life coach, then you also should have a life coach. If you're a mentor, then there are also mentors who are supporting you and guiding you. If you're a life coach, definitely there's a life coach for you. So on a side note, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, but I have my own, business coach. I have my own recently fitness coach, which will start next week. So I am very aware on the things that I need help on. And I look for people who will guide me and help me improve and work more on myself. So yeah, to answer your question, my childhood dream was to become, pulmonologist. Okay, fortunately, I fell in love with counseling, and now I'm a doctor in counseling.
So, thank you again for joining us and sharing your story and your journey here. Not only being a resource and helping our community and other people in need, but also inspiring other people that want to, you know, go down the same path as you did. And so, your parents, if you could talk about your childhood a bit, your parents are also into this sector, or what do they do? What's their background?
Oh no, no, my parents' background. So my mom, she's already a retired employee. She used to work in US, and I haven't met with my biological father, but I have my stepfather, and who was really very supportive. So my father is working as a truck driver in USA. So definitely not into counseling, not into, how do you call this? They are more into labor jobs. So that's what they do to support me in college. From elementary, my mom was a single parent, Zafar. She's a solo parent. We are three siblings, and my mom supported us growing up from elementary up to college. So by herself, and even she even supported her siblings, her family of origin. To yeah, she's just a very super woman, super mother, if I may say. That's my family background.
Excellent. Go ahead, Mela.
Thank you so much, Miss Bev, for sharing that. And it's really showed how strong you are, because there's a quote that says sometimes the strongest people are those who seek support. And I can say that you were raised well too, and then your circle right now is influencing you the right way. But moreover, how did you start your advocacy? Your advocacy to raise awareness regarding mental health. How did it start?
Mhm.
What sparks in your mind that push you to start this way?
Two things, Mela. First one is that counseling is really not a popular career here in the Philippines. In the Philippines, it's like seen as something, how do you call this? Not rewarding, financially not rewarding. That's one. Number two, a lot of people are actually not into counseling. So Filipinos are really known to be resilient, psychologically, emotionally, and even physically resilient. We experience a lot of typhoons, right? And we just use our humor. We just use our, how do you call this? Our belief in God. We call it bathalana. We're very known for bathalana or bahalana. In English, it's
Yeah,
like
I can agree with
um
you.
it's like bahalana in English is like allowing God. Okay, it's like just having the confidence and really the belief that God is there for us. So that's where resilience is coming in. And so if I have this humor, if I have God with me, then there's no need for one to go for mental health counseling or therapy or seeking help, because we are really known to, for lack of better word, be resilient and bahala na. So from that, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add that resilience, it is really a positive trait, but sometimes it can lead to the suppression of mental health issues. It's that when Filipinos or individuals are overly focused on being resilient, they may feel pressure to push through. That's how Filipinos, and how I see why we always need this mental health awareness thing.
I am even like surprised. Excuse me. I'm even surprised how like how do you call this? Like during typhoon, right? Flood that will be beyond 6 feet or 7 feet or 10 meters high. You will even see people having fun, and they're just like they're just out going on with their, how do you call this, with their going on and having fun, like they're swimming, and you can just see that, oh, you're just so happy with the flood going on. So there's really a thin line between resilience and really acknowledging that there is a problem, because that is a problem.
Yes, and not just to create a misconception, being resilient as a Filipino, it is a good thing. But however, sometimes we go to ignoring signs of distress. We focus on bouncing back from these adversities, but sometimes it can lead to ignoring, dismissing early sign of mental health distress and delaying intervention. And then, yeah, that may worsen the issue.
Exactly. It's like canary in the minefield, right? It's like a signal or a warning before an even greater disaster comes in, but we tend to, just ignore it or brush it off.
I agree with you. So this may be, a call out to those people that if you guys, go seek mental health support, go seek help from counseling. Dr. Bev,
Mhm.
you've shared with me previously about this concept that you believe in, the ikigai. Can you share us more about it?
Wow, yes. Ikigai is actually, a Japanese concept. No, it's a Japanese concept, and it's directly translated to purpose or finding one's purpose. So in order for one to find one's purpose, there are four guide questions. I can borrow that, and I shifted it, indigenized it to a Philippine context, to Filipino culture, and I named it as kabuluhan. Okay, kabuluhan in English also directly translates to purpose, but there's one more component to ikigai. So the first one is knowing what you're good at, what your skills at. So for example, for me, would that be communication? Will that be connecting or feeling empathy, etc. Number two is, what does the world need? Okay, like we are stewards, then where in the world can I help? Number three is, what am I passionate about? Like, even if I don't get paid for it, monetary or even extrinsic rewards, I don't mind because I love doing it. Okay. And then the fourth one is, where do I get paid? So that's the first one. So yes, you're passionate about it, but at the same time, you receive blessings, either monetary or other forms of blessings and graces. So the reason why we need graces, we need to receive blessings, monetary or otherwise recognition, achievement in what we do, is because we are conduit of that blessings, and we also are way to share that to others. So that's the concept of ikigai, or the Japanese concept of purpose. Now, the fifth question in kabuluhan, or in alignment with your purpose, is this one. Okay, the fifth question is, what is what does God want me to do? What is my purpose according to God? So if we will go back to our four questions, we will now integrate God in those four questions. What does God give me as my skills, as my talents? Where does God put me in a space where I can help others? Or what did God instill in my heart as my passion? And where is God giving me graces and blessings to be a blessing to others as well? So practically, that's the purpose, or that's the kabuluhan framework aligned with ikigai. Okay. And we added the concept of spirituality and God, because for Filipinos, according to my research, so my specialization in terms of my research, Mela and Zakbar, is actually on resilience. So we were talking about resilience and quality of life. And what's really surprising is that whether we talk about resilience or whether we talk about quality of life, there's commonality. And the commonality is connection to God. It's about our faith, knowing that there's a creator. So whether we talk about resilience, now if you will look at Filipinos, why are we resilient? It turns out that we are resilient because we have God. Quality of life. In order for you to have quality of life, yes, Connection is important. Yes, good nutrition is important. Yes, physical health is important. But what's really common, even if you will take away the physical health, even if you will remove social connection, quality of life will still be quality of life if there's connection to God. So yeah, that's it. Now, if you're experiencing, really zest in your purpose and you're really aligned, okay, you're in flow, then that's your kabuluhan.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I keep hearing from you that earlier when we're having technicality problems in here, you always saying it's okay, Mala, let's just go with the flow. And that reminds me of what you're saying right now. You always believe on ikigai, purpose, and that everything is happening for a reason. Is that correct? That I understood it right?
Oh, those are actually two different concepts, Mela. But I would also agree with that. When we were talking about the flow, it's just allowing. It's a concept of allowing or surrendering. Surrendering to God, that whether the recording, the technical issue is coming or popping up here and there, it's all part of this beautiful podcast. It's all part of God's alignment. So that's what I meant by going with the flow. When I said flow in terms of your purpose, flow is the level. It's actually a psychological concept of really meeting your skills and the challenges that are at hand. So it's like a sense of congruence between the two, or a matching. So if your skills are high and the challenges are within this level, you will experience a sense of flow. It's like you're just really happy and you're just so focused. And just like what we shared, it's like you're just playing. Doesn't even feel like you're working because you're just so much having fun. Now, if the challenge is low and your skills, meaning your intelligence, your resources are high, but the challenge is low, then you will feel boredom. But if your skills are low and the challenges are high, you'll feel burnout. Okay, so that's what I meant by.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bev. So it's like what we are talking earlier, like this work, this adult work, it's just the kind of play when we are a kid, right? And then when you are doing
Yes,
when you are doing what you love, you are good at it, it feels like your work has a purpose and impact in the world. So it's all connected
exactly.
into each other. That's such a good
Yeah.
point. Jack Farr, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say?
When you mean refer to God, would it be you've done most of your research on the Filipino community, and obviously, a lot of Filipinos are, God-fearing people and, believing God. But would you define it as faith, or how would you say that if you wanted to go beyond Philippines on a global level for our global audience? How would you
Mhm.
explain that there?
Yeah. Wow. Really, really challenging question, Jack. No, because my research was really focused on Filipinos. So research wise in Philippines, that's what's happening. Okay, we are really very, how do you call this? We are really very religious, if I may use the word religious. However, when we talk about faith, when we talk about God, we're not talking about religion. We're talking about the personal relationship of a person to something higher than oneself. Now, what's really beautiful, Zafar, is that the concept of spirituality, the concept of faith, let me capture post traumatic growth, or PTG. PTG is what's the result after an adversity. So we were talking about resilience, right? But in order for you to have resilience, there's an adversity. So resilience is the result of experiencing an adversity. Now, one of the effects of resilience, which is post traumatic growth, meaning there's growth after adversity, Okay? One component of resilience is spiritual growth. And that is a global research, meaning that it's not only contextualized in Philippine setting, but even to other countries. So it's how they call this? It's globally recognized that after an adversity, resilience comes in, and then there's growth in resilience, and one component of that is spiritual growth. So we have different languages, we have different words on how we identify God. It could be, other people call it energy, other people call it love, unconditional love, other people call it creator, Allah, Jesus. So however one connects with a being, a supreme being outside oneself, is spirituality. So yeah.
Very interesting the way you said it, because people, when they ask me about, what we're trying to do, and I said we're trying to do the same thing as we're just trying to focus more on positivity. But like you said, if you're religious, you call it God. If you're an artist, you call it love. If you're a scientist, you call it energy. And we just call it positive. But it's very similar.
Wow. Oh, I'm having goosebumps. Wow. Yeah.
And it's
Patients, they
just,
call it infinity.
yeah, it's scientific. But it's such an interesting discussion that you opened up. And it's just amazing. And I'm sure you, with your work, you have seen. So I want to ask you more. What have you seen in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years? Because I think pre-pandemic, what you saw in mental health, and post-pandemic, a lot of things came to surface. And I remember myself, I had to deal with a lot of folks across the globe, all kind of backgrounds and cultures. And I would see, how I think the pandemic took a lot of people by surprise, and that isolation that was created elevated a lot of these mental health issues when people really did not give it that much of a value in the past. So I wanted to get your take and your experience, and maybe even some cases that examples you could share.
Personally, first, I would say that individuals have an illusion that we are with another person. Okay, that we are not alone. But in reality, we are alone. Okay? Now, the thing is, if you are isolated, the reason why a lot of people are highly hooked to social media, okay, highly hooked to internet, is because it gives an illusion of connection. Okay? And now, during the pandemic, physically, you are now isolated, or you are no longer connected physically with other people. Now you are already confronted with the reality that, wow, you are alone. Now, what's the solution here? The problem here is that we don't know how to be with ourselves. Okay? We don't want to be alone. Like, like we really want to be with someone, whether that be friends, colleagues, in a relationship, and we really find this person really interesting, right? But do you find yourself interesting enough to be with yourself? Now, if the answer is no, then it all boils down to lack of self-love. So lack of self-love. On a side note, I'm also a graduate of Self-Love Solutions, which is created by Dr. Leah Bernardo. So the reason why we have all these experiences, feelings of isolation, is that there are a lot of expectations from ourselves and from others. And it will all boil down to self-love. So that's why it's Self-Love Solutions. Okay. Now for my cases, a lot of clients come to me for anxiety, for the same thing, for panic attacks, feeling that they will, how do you call this? I am carefully trying to choose some softer words, Mela and Jacquar, especially if this will come out in, how do you call this, in public. The reason why I am very careful with my words is because we have a concept called contagion. Okay. So, for example, because of mental health awareness, when we're talking about depression, and these are the symptoms of depression, now everybody thinks and everybody is now associating themselves with depression. That's why it's an ethical standard we don't talk about. So, yeah. So, for my clients, usually they will come to me for panic or for anxiety. They are like they experience excessive worry, difficulty falling asleep, and really just have that intense fear of death. Okay. So now what's really surprising is that they all experience this during pandemic. Even statistics will tell you that there's an increase of, I think, 400 to 500% cases of panic and anxiety, okay, during and depression during pandemic. Now, all of these are symptoms. Okay, all of these are top of the iceberg. These are really not the problem. So in the approach that I use, this is what the client will come to me for a session. But when we will dig deeper, it will actually come from, okay, fear of death. So when a client comes to me for anxiety, how does it feel that you're anxious and then I cannot breathe? Okay, and then when I will bring the client to the very first time when he felt he cannot breathe, he felt like how do I call this? He felt like he's not safe or really just fearful. It will always go back to the very beginning when that person experienced a near death experience or witnessed someone died, like a drowning experience. So a client experienced drowning when he was a kid, and it's a similar experience of anxiety. So to answer your questions, honestly, all of these conditions, depression, anxiety, panic, I'm not talking about the clinical sense. I'm talking about the normal maladjustments that people are experiencing. Again, these are all symptoms. And when you dig deeper, it all comes from, okay, fear from something. And 90% of my clients really come from fear of death, okay, which they experience in childhood.
But would you say, if you, and thank you for breaking it down like that, but the escalation of the numbers that you said you noticed or it was discovered after the pandemic triggered something within them that maybe had to do their first association with what would have been from a childhood, right? But
Yes,
if you
yes.
if you think about what triggered it now, could it been the fact that in the current times we have media, social media, and everything else around us, surrounding us, feeding us certain messages in certain cases where it triggers it. You were just
Mhm.
you have a good understanding of how powerful words can be. And when they say a picture is 1,000 words, how powerful an image would be, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so could it been that I don't know. I'm just making assumptions, nothing that I have.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
just trying to connect the dots,
Definitely.
listening to you.
Yeah.
Like I would
Yeah.
imagine, and I'm just like people seeing so much on the news. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was hunting for information because there
Yeah.
was a
You
lack of
know.
information about what was going on, right? And what would this
Mm-hmm.
virus
Yeah.
do to us, or the pandemic, or the isolation? Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just browsing the research that I found from, it's a research from Norway. I cannot find it, but there's an experiment that they did in Norway where in school, just trying to, perhaps I'll send it to Mela later on. But what they did is they banned all use of gadgets in the school. Okay, so these students are banned in using social media and gadgets. And what's really surprising is that there's a significant decrease in mental health problems, significant decrease of people going for counseling because they have psychological problems. So it's really telling that excessive use, even screen time, and excessive use of social media would really impact negatively the psychological well-being of people. Not only that, but also the reality of what's really happening globally, geopolitically, and all of this, economics wise, all of these are really impacting the person. But Jafar, if my reason will be because of economics, is because of geopolitical issues, because of global warming. And I have an anxiety and I have a panic. And if I will, as an individual, because your how you see it is in macro level, meaning we have micro and macro approach in well-being. Okay, so how you see well-being is in macro approach, global. Now, as an individual, if the solution can be found in the macro, then that will leave me helpless and hopeless in the moment when I need help the most. Okay? So it's like, a person is drowning, and the reason why the person is drowning is because of, how they call this, because of socio-political issue, which the person has no control over. Right? But what the person has control over is to have floaters, ask for a lifeguard, or afterwards learn how to swim. So that's something that is within the person's control. So those are two lenses. In micro level of well-being, the individual is responsible. In macro level, the companies, the government, the powerful people are the one who's responsible for that. Okay, so there are two ways of working with well-being, micro and macro. Both are really important.
Well, if you research the oldest civilizations in the world, I believe people took care of people
Yes.
on a micro level, you would say.
Yes.
There was always the communities, the people, the neighborhoods, society. They did not rely necessarily on the government to do that for them. They
Yeah,
felt
definitely.
they felt obligated. They felt like, as a human being, I need to make sure my neighbors to my right, to my left, in front of me, behind me, they all have food on the table. They would share. They would take care of each other. They all cared. And the responsibility was within them at a macro level, as you say. But just, you mentioned the word anxiety, and it's becoming one of the buzzwords I hear everywhere. It's like the anxiety nation, anxiety. Why we become so? Why this new generation? Why are we so much more vulnerable? When you talk about resilience, for example, right? Why are we mentally and mental health so vulnerable? Are there other factors that you found out in your research that have added to
Yeah.
this besides social media? Was it anything else? Is
Yeah.
it drugs? Is it anything else that is, you would think you would be more relaxing people, but I mean, what is it that has
Okay.
changed from when, you know, previous generations?
Yeah. Definitely. It's multi-systemic. The first one is physical. Okay. So under physical is we have sleep crisis going on. not only in terms of length of sleep, but even the quality of sleep. Now we are exposed to this artificial light, blue light that are really disturbing our quality of sleep. Taking alcohol, even wine, it will actually distract or disturb one's sleep. We also have a very powerful culture of coffee culture globally. It's one of, how they call this, most profitable business. Okay. However, it's really disturbing our sleep. Other people will say, how come if I take coffee or drink coffee, it doesn't actually affect my sleep. But actually, if you will be able to sleep, even with alcohol, even if you will be able to sleep, the quality of sleep is disrupted. Okay. Another one is we're having fiber crisis. Fiber crisis is lack of eating vegetables, okay, or fruits. So most of the time, 10 to 15 years ago, my teachers taught me that the neurotransmitters like dopamine, epinephrine, serotonin, it's actually released in the brain. So that's what was taught to us 10 to 15 years ago. It's all in the mind, it's all in the brain. Yes, 10 to 15 years ago, but now research tells us that actually 80 to 90% of neurotransmitters are being produced, being released in our gut. And in order for us to take care of our gut, we need fiber. And fiber is expensive. I mean, the more natural, the more organic the food is, it becomes more expensive. It's no longer, how do you call this? It's not accessible. So what's more accessible and cheaper are fast food. That's really not food to begin with, okay? Because it lacks nutrients, it lacks in vitamins that we actually need to identify an object as a food. So, though in the physical level, that's it. And even hydration, okay, water. We are roughly 75% water, and ideally we should be drinking at least, depends on our BMI and our height, 2 liters. And those are simple habits that we are forgetting, that we are not mindful of, that we are not tracking, that we are not measuring, that we need to integrate in our life. Now, that's the physical aspect of anxiety. Lack of sleep, lack of hydration, and all this nutrition will really exacerbate our anxiety. Now, on emotional level, I think that we are not building our no muscle, our NO, our rejection muscle. Okay? That when I think it's like a consciousness that when you receive no, it's a rejection, which we should be shifting, that we should build our no muscle in order for us to receive the yes. So no is not a rejection, but no is a step closer to your yes, or to your success, to your winning. Unfortunately, rejection is not built, and usually if I want this, it's usually being given. We clothe it as gentle parenting. So if you will ask me, why are we having a susceptible generation, it all boils down to parenting. Because the people who raise this generation is our generation, right? Or the generation before us. So there's something with the parenting that nurtured this generation.
Very interesting. So, how can we help? So, on the physical front, I think you mentioned we could help them measure all those aspects, the food, liquid, the water and everything else. But on the other front, how can we, on the emotional side, how can we help? We're on a larger level, not just individual, but how do you envision we could help many people?
Wow. On a global scale, wow, really, really difficult. On a global scale, education is really very important. Okay? So I think mental health is not something, resilience. Instead, perhaps, of saying it is mental health, we can shift it into resilience. And resilience can be injected in the curriculum from nursery up to college or even to PhD level, like resilience training, resilience or mental health should be part of the education. It's as important as mathematics. It's as important as entrepreneurship. So on a global scale, I think that's where one can come in the education sector.
But what about the parents? Parents feel like they're doing everything they can. They're even
Mhm. Yeah.
doing maybe too much. But
Go
so,
ahead. I would really, how do you call this? I would really like to say that parenting is not my expertise, Zakfar. So I would really be able to provide really tidbits, professional opinion on that. However, in the counseling approach or even in the theoretical approaches in psychology, the first 5 years of a person's childhood is really very important. And that's where parenting plays a vital role. Now, in an adult, if you're 18 and above, then it's already your responsibility. Whether you had a childhood trauma, whether you had resentment towards a mom, towards your dad or your sibling rivalry. As an adult, it's now your responsibility. We can again include in the curriculum how we could how can we have multi-systemic approach in education, in physiology, in our physical health, and really include really, how they call this, a really rich curriculum integrating all of these aspects. That includes spirituality, that includes parenting. So definitely we cannot change how we were reared as we were kids, but having a knowledge that what you have now may not be entirely your responsibility is a game changer. And having, like an exposure to different parenting styles will really teach the next parents to be, because the parenting that happened in the past is something that's done. So what we can be working on will be the parenting in the present and the next generation. So yeah, the parenting experts can come in.
I agree with you. Yes, Jax.
no, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that I so much agree with you because right now it's like in the Philippines alone, or maybe I saw some, vlogs, video of parents worldwide or from other territory. And it's that I'm just so happy because the parents of this generation, they look so healed that even though they have, previous experiences as they were a child, right now, what they do is to heal themselves and then become the parent they want to have when they were a kid. And I think that's just fulfilling because we are now producing the next generation as healed, healed adults, healed children, and that we just hope that will maybe less anxious and everything a healthy well-being. Jax?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
All right.
totally agree too, Mela. If a parent is emotionally dysregulated, that's actually being absorbed by the child.
Yes, and I just want to compliment like parents in this generation or even before the generation before. Like, thank you so much for healing yourself in order to raise a child that is healed enough and is not prone to any mental health issues. And before, I'm
Mhm.
learning a lot from this conversation. Before, I remember this study wherein a mice was like experimented. They used a water maze where the mice had to navigate through a pool to find a submerged platform that allowed them to escape. I think you can also remember it. It's It's part of our study before. And then the results were quite revealing because the mice on the high oil diet had significantly impaired cognitive abilities that took much longer for them to find the platform. So it really says enough how the diet impacts the mental health.
Definitely, totally agree. I was thinking of a different mice experiment. I thought it was about the hope experiment, almost similar to.
Can you share that with us?
It's like the mice were also submerged in the water, and then the mice, like, will die for about few minutes, and then what happened is they gave them a platform where the mice can be helped, and then they will help not to drown on the water. And then afterwards, after doing the saving part, they can now last significantly longer time for hours and hours. And now that platform of saving the mice from drowning, they call that hope. Now, if there's a hope, if one believes that something will save you, that you will be saved, your resilience, your stamina for going on, keep on going is significantly longer, significantly increased. So that's what they call hope experiment.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, Jack.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, so let's just, touch base in this society. In today's world, why is raising mental health awareness so important in today's society? To be
Wow.
specific.
Oh my God. This is a little bit, how do you call this? Going against the tide professional point of view, Mela. I think, honestly, we should be very careful with mental health awareness, just like what I shared. That I think there's, in our recent time right now, there's overwhelming mental health awareness that's happening. Okay. But what's lacking is the call to action, right? Like, so what if I know this? So what if I identify myself as having this? What if I know the labels? What's next? I think that's what's lacking. And what's really dangerous, or what we should really be careful for or on, it would be the contagion that's gonna happen. Okay, earlier when there's no boom of the internet, it's easier to, how do you call this, to put off the fire if a crisis happens. But now it's more difficult. It's more difficult, okay, because of social media. Before, there's only social contagion. Okay? Social contagion, if you witness someone having a crisis, then you will probably have secondhand experience, okay, of that, just by merely witnessing, okay. But now, because of the emergence of social media, once that has been captured in video and will be shared all over, there's now social media contagion. I think we still need mental health awareness in a global scale, but we should really be very careful to prevent contagion negatively. So, yeah, I think that would be it.
It's so
Yes.
right what you're referring to. There is a lot of self-diagnosis that people do, unfortunately. And
Yes.
like imagine if this was applied in the medical industry, and people would just say, "Okay, you have a headache, you should do this." But in case of you know taking medication, prescribing it themselves, versus having a professional that they could and seek guidance. And this is part of what our goal and mission is at Positive Nation, to really bring that resource and make it globally available. Hence, we're having this discussion with professionals like you. So
Mhm.
on this platform, we could introduce people, talk about their own journey, talk about their own experience and expertise, and allow people to, connect with them and tap into those resources. And that's our goal. So this way we could get proper exposure while we're creating more positive content, because like you said, it has that impact, and there is enough non-positive content going around, and our goal is to say things and share things in a better light. We're not here to judge anybody else's content. We just want to focus on creating more positive way of something and share that so people have more options, you know.
Yes, definitely. It's also
And
contagion, no? Jafar.
That's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we want to use all those uh, tools, but in to spread more positivity, you know. That's the goal. Go ahead, Mela.
yes, and from what we are talking, we believe that as these things, mental health issues are being contagion, we also believe in the power of influence and how positivity, can ripple. It's like when you open the door for somebody else and it gives a smile to that person, that smile, can make other people smile, and then that person can make other people smile too. So that's it. We want to make this positivity ripple. I believe you have another appointment after this, and to not make this any more longer. So, can you share with me what has been the most rewarding aspect of your career in counseling?
Wow. Most rewarding, I would say, is my vision for my peak performance that is yet to come. So my vision is to really, I shared about self-mentoring. It's a framework. It's a self-development framework that I created, which I shared to you earlier, the different multi aspects of working on your fitness, on your sleep, hydration, working on your past, present, and future. So I would say the most rewarding is the peak performance that I can see in my head. My vision is to really teach that self mentoring to a lot of people so that, even without a therapist, even without a counselor, then you have the best mentor, and the best mentor is yourself. So, that's, I would say, the most rewarding, creating that and definitely sharing that to the world.
We have this so called term of claiming it, right? If you're familiar with it, we claim.
Yeah, yeah. It is yet to
And
come.
yes, but we are claiming it. You're going to have that peak performance. You know what? In Positive
Wow.
Nation,
Thank you.
we also believe that there are steps for you to live a positive life. That first, you need to be grateful for of what you have right now, and then you envision those things that you want, and then you manifest it because you already envision yourself to be there. You already envision yourself to have those things or those achievements, and that I think is very well important. What you asked me before, like, how do you manifest what you are doing right now? How do you achieve this thing right now? Well, as I've told you, Dr. Bev, since I was childhood, I'm playing to be like this, and I think that is, the importance of envisioning and manifesting.
Wow. As long as you can see it, can be received. Wow.
Exactly.
Mela, let me just leave this that we were talking about how you can find your purpose once you can find your career, be that business, entrepreneurship, or employment. That career is an adult version of. So if you feel like you're playing, you're having fun, and that wow, you're in your purpose.
I love that, Dr. Bev. I so much love that. Yes, Dr. Bev, what is your final message? The final message would you like to leave our listeners with about the importance of, mental health, counseling, prevention, and the power of seeking help?
Wow. Really, the I really advocate for mental health practitioners first. For the mental health practitioners, because it's our responsibility to help others. But before we can help others, it's also our responsibility to help ourselves first. So if you're a mental health practitioner, if you're a coach, if you're part of the Positive Nation, it's also a challenge to find mentors who will really keep on driving your positivity, your mindset, your energy, your vision. You should have someone who would really, bring you to the next level, whether that be physical health, mental health, well-being, okay? So that we can serve others better. And for those who are, because we cannot advocate, go for counseling. But if you're a counselor and you don't seek counseling yourself, then how can we advocate for that? And I think one of the misconception of going for mental health practitioner, be that counseling, therapy, psychotherapy, is that you go there whenever you have a problem. No, we don't have to
Yes.
experience a problem.
Mhm.
We don't need to feel low in order to seek, counseling. If you have a goal, if you have a vision and you'd like to work on that, it's just like going for massage, going for your nail treatment. It should be as natural as that. Okay, so we integrate that in our lifestyle. So just like drinking water, just like sleeping, mental health should be integrated in our lifestyle and not a one session approach. Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bev. I am learning a lot from this conversation. And you told me before, we had a quick call, and then Dr. Bev told me, and we mentioned it like prevention is always better than cure. And the role of the counselors is to prevent us from even delving deeper from those mental health issues. Jax, do you have any last words?
Well, as the doctor said, this is not a, it's difficult to help somebody just with one session. Could be, in some cases done, but overall, there's always, especially when it comes to mental health, there's a lot more layers to it. You know, it's you mentioned initially we thought it was the mind, and then later on we found that it was in our gut. And imagine when a baby's born and how their gut is very pure and their system works very well. Not much of a help initially. Then as they go in their life, they start clogging up, right? And they're it's like they're, and then when it comes to the doctor, in order to get them unclogged, it's very hard to do that in one session. And yet they need to really go maybe deeper to be able to emotionally, mentally, to get to the root of the matter. But anyway, thank you so much. I really enjoyed and a pleasure that listening to you, and hopefully we could have more sessions with you in the future, and look forward to that.
Definitely, definitely. I look forward to that too. Thank you for what you do for the world, Jafar and Mela. Such a beautiful light and really beautiful energy too. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, and we would like to invite you back in and consider yourself part of our family, of this Positive Nation global family, and look forward to more collaboration.
Thank you so much. Thank you, definitely. Thank you, Mela. Thank you, Jock.
Thank you
Have
so
an
much.
awesome week,
Yes.
month, year for us. Bye
Yes.
bye.
And on okay, just on my side, maybe one day we can meet when you're here in Manila. Yes.
Definitely, yes. Definitely. It's a yes. Yes.
And to just finish this session, thank you so much, Dr. Beverly Fernandez, for joining us today and sharing your invaluable insights on self love, resilience, spiritual growth. Your expertise has truly enriched our understanding of these crucial topics, and we are incredibly grateful for the time you've spent with us. To all our positive citizens, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in and being part of our community. We hope you found today's discussion as enlightening as we have. Remember, embracing self love and resilience can lead to profound personal growth and transformation. Until next time, everyone, keep nurturing your positivity and well being. Goodbye, and see you in the next Positive Nation Media.